Hey, folks, this is Brother Mike. Been a long time since I've been with you, and I'm glad to be back. I want to continue with my exposition on the Worcester Police Department. I've got 13 subscribers out there, and you folks know that I've published a number of videos on issues that have come my way regarding the behavior and comportment of the Worcester Police in my neighborhood, which is the South Main neighborhood. Uh, it's a neighborhood that has a lot of crime. You know, we do have some social issues here. And one of the social issues is the response of the police department to the problems that we have. And this is a continuation of it. And as you may know, some of you don't know, let me just kind of fill you in. I, at a point over a year ago now, had occasion to call 911 to report a crime in my neighborhood. Uh, as a result of that, I was arrested by the responding officers and charged with being a disorderly person and disturbing the peace. The reason why I was arrested is because one of the officers, a gentleman, Matthew Tivenin, had seen some of the videos that I have produced in the past and was not happy with them and used the occasion of my calling 911 to retaliate against me by falsely arresting and imprisoning me. I want to kind of bring you up to speed a little bit about where we're at in that matter. Of course, following an arrest, there's always a court hearing, and it's a criminal hearing. I was charged with a criminal complaint. And when I went to court, immediately the district attorney's office wanted to decriminalize the matter. You know, they have the option of decriminalizing these matters. You know, there's a very profound difference between a criminal complaint and a civil complaint. They wanted to turn this into a civil complaint. The primary difference is in a criminal complaint, you're either found guilty or not guilty, whereas in a civil complaint, you're found responsible for your actions. It's similar to getting a ticket for littering or any other non criminal activity. And they do this when they feel that they don't have enough evidence or the case isn't strong enough to prevail in a criminal complaint. In the criminal complaint, in order for them to prevail, they have to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a very high threshold of evidence. When it's reduced to a civil matter, they simply have to show clear and convincing evidence. It's 51%. You know, it's just a tad over a half in order for them to prevail. It's a much lower threshold of proof, and it should be easier for them to prevail. Well, I'm going to give you an idea about what happened in my complaint. Of course, I decided that I didn't want to move forward with a dismissal of the action that was offered to me by the district attorney's office of a civil complaint, because that would mean that I would have to be uh, accept the responsibility for my actions. Now, I was brutalized by this police officer. I was handcuffed and had my face slammed into a chain link fence 3 times by this individual. Thank goodness I had a number of witnesses to this event. There were 2 other officers present at the time: Dave Doherty, probably the least culpable of all 3 of them, and also another officer present was Brendan Tibnan, who happens to be the brother of the primary actor in this debacle that I found myself in, you know. And it seems odd to me that blood brothers who are police officers would be dispatched to the same crime scene since naturally, your loyalty is always going to be to your blood kin. I know I had brothers. I don't have any anymore. All my brothers died, but I'd do anything to help my brothers, and I'm sure that this officer, Brendan Tibnan, would do anything to help his brother if he found himself in a jam, which he has found himself firmly mired in. Getting back to the matter of the court uh, process, when I said that I didn't want to accept responsibility for my actions, there was a number of hearings, and they offered again to decriminalize the matter, but they still insisted that I take responsibility, which I refused to do. And what this did is it left no alternative but for there to be a jury trial on the matter in the criminal realm. Well, we got to the date when I had to go to court. I had a witness with me. I actually subpoenaed two witnesses. One of my witnesses did not appear, but we got to the court hearing, and the judge, using his discretion and avoiding the jury trial, opted to move forward with the prosecution of the matter as a civil complaint. And as I have explained to you, there's a much lower threshold of proof. Well, we had the usual process. They got on the stand, each individual officer, giving their synopsis of what occurred that day. They all were in agreement, even though, I think and my witnesses think, and in reality, a lot of what they said was simply manufactured false evidence. I'm not going to really get into a lot of that right now. But, one thing about being a liar is that you have to be able to remember your lies. This is what makes a spy a spy. A spy is able to remember each and every lie they tell, and therefore they don't get caught. Well, some people are good liars and some people are bad liars. Well, I got to tell you, this Matthew Tibnan was not a very good liar, and in the process of me questioning him, I was able to show the complete absurdity of his charges against me. When you've been charged with being disturbing the peace, first of all, there has to be a victim. All right, somebody's got to be an aggrieved party to this. In his report, he claimed that I was acting really like a maniac. I mean, even he acknowledged on the stand that his description of my behavior was that I was acting like a crazy maniac, okay? Well, as a result of my actions in his report, he said that across the street, 4 or 5 people came out of the building in response to my activity. Now, here's what he says my activity was. He says I was yelling obscenities, which, by the way, is not a crime. Obscene language, as long as it's not what they call fighting words, is your constitutional right. There's nothing illegal about uttering an obscenity. However, he did mention that in his report as a justification for his actions. Another justification for his actions that he put in his report was that I was flailing my arms. Well, flailing your arms is not speech, but it is a means of expression. And our First Amendment to the Constitution guarantees us a right to express ourselves. Flailing your arms, people, is not a crime. And, why would you put that in your report if it wasn't a crime to justify your actions? Well, I knocked down and had him acknowledge that about 3 or 4 items in his report that he used to justify his arrest of me were not crimes. So, we're halfway home with being found not responsible. Remember, this is a civil matter. It's not guilt or innocence, it's responsibility or you're not responsible. And how could he prove responsibility when he cites in his report that the activities that he accused me of are, in fact, legal. Let's get to the matter of the victims, okay? As I mentioned, he said that 4 or 5 people came from the building next door as a result of my tumultuous behavior. You know, did anybody try to get their names? No. Did they interview any of these people? No. Did any of these people approach the police with a complaint? No. Where's the victim? Okay? Now we're all the way home. How are you going to justify an arrest based on disturbing the peace when the activities that you complain of are legal and there is no victim? Furthermore, they were discussing social matters afflicting our neighborhood on the front steps of the building, these 3 police officers, with about 3 or 4 of my fellow residents. Okay? In the report, this officer, Matthew Tivnan, stated that my neighbors became so, uh, you know, frightened and afraid of me because of this crazy maniac behavior that I was displaying that they ran inside the building. Well, that never happened either, people, okay? So suffice it to say that I prevailed on the charge of disturbing the peace, and I was found not responsible for that accusation. I got the brother on the stand, Brendan Tivnan, and my obligation, of course, as a person defending myself, was to, first of all, attack his credibility. That was very easy to do. Why? Simply because he's the brother of the arresting officer. Whose side are you going to be on if it's your brother? If you were a cop and you responded to a crime scene with your brother, and your brother went off the rails and falsely arrested somebody, falsely imprisoned somebody, used excessive force, and just basically ran roughshod over somebody else's, some citizen's civil rights, whose side are you going to be on, you know? Well, my opening question was, are you the little brother or are you the big brother? He's the little brother. Well, just so happens that his big brother was a cop 4 years before he came on the force, so naturally his brother's a role model. My question to him was, being that this is your brother, and I'm sure you love your brother, if your brother got himself in some kind of trouble, I'm sure you'd do everything within your power to help him out. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, no further questions. You know, the guy's credibility is just cooked, all right? Now, we get to the matter of the being disorderly, you know? Oh, I did my best. I put my witness on the stand. This woman testified that at no time did I utter obscenity. At no time did I resist arrest. At no time did I misbehave in a criminal manner. And she was quite compelling. You know, I had some misgivings about her. You know, she's not a person of extreme intellect, but she's a wonderful, compassionate individual. She stuck by me and, you know, did the best she could do. She stood up well under cross examination, and I thought she came across as a very credible person. And apparently, you know, the judge believed her, and it went a long way towards my lack of responsibility for the disturbing the peace charge. However, the judge, and it was kind of curious to me, indicated that some of the things that I had said to this officer during the course of his brutality of me and, you know, this mockery of an arrest were deemed fighting words, you know. I don't know, you know, I have no recollection of any kind of verbiage that, you know, could be deemed as fighting words, but I think what the judge did is he kind of took the Solomon approach to it. You know, he kind of split the baby in half. You know, let's face it. You know, the credibility of these police and the police department is very important to the city of Worcester. And in order to save face, I think what he did is he just gave them half and gave me half. Well, that resulted in me being found responsible for being a disorderly person. But I also got to kind of scratch my head because how can you be disorderly when you found not responsible for disturbing the peace? Well, what's done is done. I had to pay a $100 fine, okay? And that matter is now over. But the important part is that the criminal complaint was dismissed. There was no criminal finding. Brother Mike is not a criminal. I don't have a record of any kind of criminal behavior. I paid my $100 fine. The thing is over and done with. So what does that do? What that does is it says that the activities of the police, the activities of Matthew Tiverton in executing his arrest, um, were baseless. And what does that do? That clears Brother Mike to file a civil complaint in United States District Court to be made whole as a result of this violation of my rights. Okay? Now, kind of moving along, we've had some very disturbing events happening nationally as a result of police activity. I'm talking about this matter in Ferguson, Ohio. I'm talking about the black gentleman that was gunned down in a Walmart store after somebody called the police. He purchased a BB gun right off the shelf, was walking around the store with the BB gun with the rest of his merchandise. Some white person became alarmed, called the police. The police went into the Walmart store, saw the black gentleman with the BB gun, and shot him dead. The guy was unarmed. And there have been instances like this all over America. In fact, there was an organization that did some studies on this subject, and the conclusion that they came to was really quite alarming. They came to the conclusion that black people in America, particularly young black men between the ages of 15 and 19 years old, are much more likely to be killed by the police than white young men. Matter of fact, I think it's a variation of anywhere from 33% afflicting black young men to only 1% afflicting white young men. So we have a very serious problem in this nation right now. I think we're really entering into a new dimension of the civil rights crusades. It's we had the civil rights crusades of the 60s. Well, this is the civil rights crusades of the 2010s.
Garcia is extreme.
And we really have to be on guard because we could be processing our way towards another era in American history where we come just short of civil war. And it's not only racial; it's also uh, economic in nature. Well, what did Brother Mike do? I did what every good citizen should do. And as some of you may know, I don't know if you do, but there's been a movement recently by the Worcester Police Department. They have kind of tentatively acknowledged, that we have issues in this town in terms of the police. We've had some brutality cases that have been just horrendous. One in particular, excuse me, a 62-year-old woman uh, had the police respond to her apartment 3 times on a 911 call, and each time that they came, it was beyond her why they were there because she never called 911. Well, the third time that this police officer arrived, I mean, the guy was like pissed, and he made all these references to how much he hates Hispanic people. and she had a companion there with her, and apparently that companion voiced her uh, opposition to the police disrespecting this elderly woman. You know, well, what did the cop do? The cop took the elderly woman and body slammed her on the floor of her own apartment, causing broken bones and multiple internal injuries. This is going to cost the city of Worcester a lot of money. They just settled the big one. I think it was like $400,000, but they've settled about two or three cases. And what this has done, because these matters have come to the attention of the public, is caused the police to take action. They recently had an open forum on Facebook where anybody could join in and they would answer your questions. And what they did is they encouraged people to make a complaint to the Internal Affairs Department of the police department here in Worcester if they thought they had a problem. Well, that's what Brother Mike did. I went down there and filed my internal affairs complaint. I got a telephone call from a Lieutenant Fiorillo, I believe his name was. Very nice guy. I don't know, how they choose these guys, but it's the second time that I filed a complaint down there, and both of the gentlemen that I came in contact with were extremely nice individuals. I felt very comfortable with them. You know, and in my discourse with this gentleman, as we were discussing the matter, he brought up a very interesting comment that Officer Tivnan allegedly made in his own defense. He told the Internal Affairs Department that my behavior was so crazy and so tumultuous that it required two police officers to take me into custody. Well, when I had him on the stand at the court, he testified that the arrest went without incident. So we have what we call an inconsistent statement here in the law. How can in one venue, the court, he say that Brother Mike, just basically surrendered peacefully, but when the scrutiny was on him with his own internal affairs department, say that he required the assistance of one of the other police officers to take me into custody because my behavior was so irrational. Who was that police officer that he alleges was required to help him? His brother. Okay? Of course, Lieutenant Ferrillo there is kind of scratching his head because he didn't have the transcript. You can go down to the courthouse and get a transcript of the whole hearing for $50. And I told him, I says, you need to go down there and get this transcript because when you do, you're going to find that the manner in which Officer Matthew Tivnan testified is totally different from what he told you. So, did he perjure himself in court, or is he lying to Internal Affairs? That's the question. And I also mentioned to this lieutenant that it seemed illogical to me to have two blood brothers respond to the same crime scene because what is it going to do? If there's a problem, it's going to corrupt everything. Naturally, the brother's going to advocate for his own brother. He's not going to advocate for some person that lives on Oriad Street off of South Main, a neighborhood that's plagued with crime, violence, prostitution, all drugs, everything else, alcoholism. He's gonna back his brother. So I recommended to him that they need to have some kind of policy where brothers don't go to crime scenes together. Anyway, um, moving along with the manner of the highly touted, just come on down and file a complaint with Internal Affairs, and you'll have your day of recompense. It's been like 3.5 months since I filed that complaint, and I have not heard a word from anybody. Okay, I don't know if they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I don't know if they're waiting for me to file my complaint in U.S. District Court. I don't know. They're very fearful at that police department of officers behaving in a manner that causes them to be sued. And they should be, because they need to be a little bit more diligent about how they supervise these officers and how they train them. And that training is very important because getting back to what I said earlier about the justification for the arrest, how can a policeman put in a report, a public record, all these alleged behaviors that are legal in nature as a justification for an arrest? That's either this guy is like just dumb as a box of rocks, or he's just not hasn't been trained properly. All right. Well, that's the status of the case at this point. I just wanted to let you folks know, where I'm at in this matter. I've got my civil complaint all composed. I'm ready to have submit it to the United States District Court, and we'll see how that shakes down. But we had another interesting event here at Oriad Street that really speaks to this whole problem. You know, now if they're sincere in reaching out to the public and encouraging people to file complaints, about police misconduct and trying to do right when it comes to protecting the citizens' civil rights, why do they continue to be violated? I have a gentleman here who manages my building, and he's a very nice guy, got a tough job. Some of these people that live here, they, have a checkered background, you know what I mean? And we got one guy that lives here that's he's on probation, you know, okay, he's not a model citizen. Well, they get into a little bit of a difference over the rent or, something like that. And this guy just went ballistic. He attacked the building manager in an extremely violent way. He put a gash on the top of the guy's head that I think it took about 5 staples to close. Hit him over the head with something, and gave the poor man a black eye. And John is not, a big guy. You know what I mean? He's he's not defenseless, but this guy had him outclassed, and he damaged John's ribs, and I mean really beat him up pretty bad, almost at will. Well, this manager of the building did what any other citizen would do. He called the police. Police came down to the building, knew this guy who had perpetrated this assault upon him, knew that he was on probation. Guess what? They decided that they weren't even going to take the complaint. They didn't even allow him to file a complaint, a criminal complaint for assault and battery against this person that put a gash in his head, gave him a black eye, damn near fractured his ribs, and just basically beat him to a fare thee well, and the evidence was right there. How do police, police have discretion. They got the ability to make instantaneous decisions about, how they're going to proceed. But, we have a concept in the Constitution called equal protection under the law, regardless of your race, regardless of your social status, regardless of where you live. You have the right to equal protection. Well, not here in Worcester, not here on Oriad Street. They must think that we're some kind of members of a community that is not part of we're not constituent members of the Republic. We're people that can just get abused at will by convicted criminals, and the police aren't going to do a thing about it. So how far have we really come here in Worcester? What has been the fruit of this transparency that the police apparently want to convey, and get people to, bring to their attention the behavior of officers who don't act right, who engage in police misconduct. Are they seriously concerned. How does a person, get beat up and assaulted, and then the police just get away without even taking the complaint? And now John, his uh, take on the matter is, doesn't even make sense to call the police. Why bother calling them if they're not going to do anything about it? So this problem still persists, people. And on a personal side, people that know me, you see my videos, you may notice that there's a pretty profound physical change in me. Well, that physical change is a result of me coming down with cancer. Brother Mike has cancer. I've been going to chemotherapy now for 5 months. I'm very thankful for the medical staff at the University of Massachusetts Memorial Hospital and my doctor. I'm also very thankful of the many people out there who love me and care for me and who love Jesus Christ and are praying for me. The members of the Worcester Nepali Baptist Church, my sister's church down in Florida, the Yanka Faith Church down there, they're all praying for me. I've got people in the Philippines praying for me, and I'm really thankful of that, and this is a battle of my lifetime. I'm fighting for my very survival here, but it's a fitting metaphor because there's a cancer on Worcester too. And it's these police officers who neglect their duty and who ride roughshod over the civil rights of citizens and get away with it. We see what's happening in our nation. We can see indicators that could possibly happen here. Doesn't it make sense to kind of head this stuff off at the pass? Should we wait until we've got a full-blown problem with people demonstrating and in the streets against the police and against the way the police neglect them and the way the police fail to enforce their civil rights? Why don't we just take care of this matter while it's still manageable? Like me. Hey, 5 months into my chemotherapy, the cancer that they found inside my body is gone because we jumped on it early. My medical team and my prayer warriors out there jumped on this invasion of this temple of God early, and we're winning the battle. Well, Worcester, we can win the battle against police misconduct if we all work together and if the police really do what they should do. Excuse me. Excuse me, and take this matter seriously. Hold these police officers responsible for their actions. Get rid of the bad ones. Make sure that citizens are treated equally under the law and restore to us our rights as citizens to live in peace and harmony in a city that is presently in danger of fracturing. So I want to thank you very much for being here with me. I hope that you will subscribe to my channel. I've got 13 subscribers now. I'd like to have more subscribers. And tell your friends about this video, because the more people that we have that are aware that there are people out there doing something about it, and I'm going to do something about it until I die. You know what I mean? Or until this matter has been solved, because we don't have to live like this here in Worcester, folks. And I just want to thank you very much for listening. And I want to bless all of you like I've been blessed by my people and my prayer warriors out there who have been really solidly behind me as I fight my personal battle against a cancer that has invaded my body. I hope that we can also win this battle against a cancer of police misconduct that has invaded the city of Worcester. God bless.